got A's whenever I wrote a paper or gave a speech, got the back, and there wasn't any feedback on it. But that changed when I came to L2k. My first paper that I got back, my first speech that I got back, it was filled with a bunch of comments. I couldn't even see the page, not exaggerating. There were some good things that I did. I should keep doing this thing and this thing. But it was a lot more of, here are things you should stop doing because they are really bad. And it ranged from things like, structure of the content of your speech, how to have a clear beginning, middle, end, all the way to things like nonverbal body language, things that people notice that you don't really think they notice. And all of that really cultivated a much more improved speech. And from those two key experiences, that first vlog and that first speech, I realized that it's really important in the L2k program to have the mentality that there's always room for improvement. And more importantly, that your number one source for getting that improvement is going to your L2k teacher. So for me, what did I do after that first paper and that first speech? Well, I started going into academic support sessions with my teacher and giving my speech ahead of time, having her look at my logs ahead of time, getting feedback on it, and then internalizing that feedback and using it in order to improve the next draft of my log, in order to improve my delivery of speeches. And all that stuff resulted in better grades, definitely. More importantly, it made me a better writer, a better articulator of my thoughts, which I think is a lot more important in the long run. And those conversations that you have with your teacher have the potential of spawning a whole new course of your life. And that actually happened to me. I'll give you one quick example before I hand it off to the next person. This last year, senior year L2k, I was talking with one of my friends about the paper that I had written about passive sentences versus active sentences. And I shouldn't have done that because my L2k teacher was an English teacher. So of course he started, to hover around the conversation on Zoom. So it's awkward, as Zoom normally is. And he started talking to me after class about a passive sentence that I used in my log, one paragraph about global health. Now, for a bit of context, this log was about my practicum internship that I did at Medtronic. As you don't know, Medtronic is a biomedical engineering device company. And the paragraph that I had written that passive sentence in was about how certain companies exploit the underdeveloped markets of specific countries that don't have robust healthcare systems. And while I initially started talking to him about specifically that passive sentence, it actually spawned a whole conversation. It should have been 2 minutes, became 15 minutes, of just global healthcare disparities, not just in other countries, but also in historically underrepresented and vulnerable populations here in the United States. That's the kind of conversation that I wouldn't have expected when I first started a paper I went to have in STEM class. But it was one of the most rewarding conversations I've ever had because it helped me cogently and articulately realize that my main passion lies at the intersection of public policy and healthcare. And while I would have probably had that realization sometime in college down the line, having that realization through L2k was really important in helping me maximize what I wanted for my very first year and first semester of college. And so all that came back to one simple instance of getting help from your teacher on something as simple as a passive sentence. And that's the kind of thing that I encourage all of you students to keep in mind as we start the program, is to always acknowledge that there's room for improvement. And there's always a way for you to improve what you're doing, and the best source for it is your teachers. And I know my prejudice may get in the way when I say this here, but L2k truly was one of the most rewarding parts of the last 4 years of my life, and I really wish it was for you as well. So good luck.
Hi, my name is Brandon Britt, and I'm a 2019 graduate of Legacy and obviously the L2k program. Currently, I am going to be a junior at Ashland University in Ohio, and I'm studying history, political science, and political economy. Now, you might be thinking, Brandon, that's not STEM. And to that I respond, I know. And that was something that I had to come to terms with during my time in L2k. Going into the program, as you all know, it's marketed as a STEM program. And so I came in thinking that I wanted to be a forensic anthropologist. I did cadaver lab my 9th grade, and that was scratched off the table. Then I thought, hey, maybe I want to be a surgeon. I'd been watching a lot of Grey's Anatomy at that time, and suddenly I realized, medical school isn't the best for me. I'm not that good at math. Then I was thinking, what else could I be doing? And junior year, I ended up doing a job shadow with Judge David Archuleta at the Boulder County District Attorney's Office, or Boulder County Courts. And from there, I learned that I did not want to be a judge. It's a lot of boring, sitting behind a desk, looking at all the precedences and everything, and I just didn't think it was for me. Then I decided, hey, one person that was really piquing my interest was the district attorney in the cases. And so after thinking a lot, I ended up wanting to go down that career path. History had always been a big subject favorite of mine, and I thought, hey, maybe I can go into law school after I graduate, and I don't know, maybe become a prosecutor. And that is currently the route I'm on now. And I can be completely honest, that wouldn't have happened without L2k. L2k, from the very beginning, when I wrote my first blog on concussions, and it was hard. I will tell you that straight up. I think I had to submit it 3 times for revision, but I can tell you over the years it got a lot better. And from thinking that writing 5 or 6 pages was super, super hard on a subject that I really wanted to research about, like concussions, to a 5,000 word paper on Aristotle, Socrates, and comparing the differences in college, I can say L2k has helped my writing a lot. It's also helped to teach a lot of networking skills and leadership skills. My freshman year, I can tell you that I would not have been standing up in front of this crowd. I probably wouldn't have been standing up in front of this Tuesday in France. I was scared. But with L2k teaching you speeches, it teaches you how to command the presence of a room. It teaches you how to be that leader, how to rise above in all of these situations. And I took that into college. In my sorority, Delta Zeta, I'm on the executive board. I'm on the executive board of Student Senate at my university, and I have also created a club called Elevate, which is an empowerment and advocacy group for survivors and supporters of sexual assault. And through all of that, I've used a lot of networking. I've used a lot of kind of just going for it. And that's what it really adds up to, is you gotta push through it, you gotta push through the hard times. L2k is gonna be hard. It is going to make you cry at some point. It's gonna make you so frustrated that you just wanna take the papers you have and crumple them up into a ball and throw it across the room. But at other times, it's going to be amazing. One of the best experiences you've ever had. It has taught me so much. It's brought me so many great people and so many old teachers that I'm very sad weren't here tonight, but that I still keep in contact with and support me. And one last thing for parents, really support your child through this time. Kind of really just let them know that you're there for them. And when it comes to mental health, take their concerns seriously, because mental health is a big thing. I struggled a lot with my mental health when I was in L2k. I think is it there? Great. So I struggled a lot with my mental health when I was in L2k, but with the support from my mom and the support from my friends, I was able to get through it. So listen to your child if they're struggling and if they even want to get some help. Thank you.
All right, hi everyone. Last speech for you, you're almost there. My name is Kate Lambo. I'm also a graduate of the L2k program this last spring. And I will be a student at Columbia University in about a week now, I guess, studying mechanical engineering. So we have talked a lot tonight about those tangible skills that you learn in L2k, right? We talked about speaking and writing and networking and everything that's important with that, and all of those hard skills that you learn when you do your all those hard skills that you learn when you do your job shadow and your internship and how important those are, right? And I think that it's really valuable that we talk about those because those are going to serve you well. Wherever you or your student, if you're a parent, chooses to go after high school, those skills are going to come in handy. You're going to use them in your job interviews, you're going to use them in your college applications, you're going to use them in the professional world as a whole. But I wanted to focus on one specific thing that I got on L2k that's maybe on the more intangible side. And that is the culture and the students that L2k basically produces, right? So when I think about L2k culture, right, I think maybe one of the fears that I had coming into the program was that it was going to be really competitive, really aggressive, right? That everyone was going to be fighting for that top spot all the time. But I found that in reality, L2k is a really supportive program where students push each other to do their best in everything that they do, right? So when I talk about culture and students, I'm talking about academics, I'm talking about socially, you're gonna make your best friends in L2k, right? All of that. But I'm also talking about like dedication that students have, okay? So my personal favorite example is how involved L2k students are. We've had a lot of our speakers up here on stage tonight talk about how freshman year L2k takes up a lot of time, right? And I won't sugarcoat that. Your workload is totally going to change from what you were doing in middle school to what you have to do in high school and what is expected of you in all the projects that we discussed earlier. But even with that additional workload, I saw throughout all my high school years that L2k students were some of the most involved people at Legacy, right? I knew L2k students that were athletes. I knew L2k students that were in band or that were in orchestra. I knew L2k students that were in all kinds of clubs, right? And I think the important part there is that students in L2k do choose to chase their passions, right? Maybe it's not writing a log on penny, and I relate to that a lot because my first freshman year log was about grass. So pick that one wisely. That really is important. You don't want to write a log about penning or grass, right? That's not going to get you an everything unless you're really into it, but in general would not recommend, right? But it's students that are pursuing their passions in everything that they do. And I tried my best to be involved in high school. I ran cross country and track. I was in a bunch of our clubs, a couple of our honor societies, right? I chose things that I enjoyed and that enriched my high school experience. And I think that L2k and the students that were in the program pushed me to do that. You're going to be surrounded by people that are ambitious, that are hardworking, that have goals in life. And I think that is almost as valuable as the hard skills that you are going to pull out of this program. Because in the future, your students, or you, if you're an incoming freshman, are going to surround yourself by people that are similar to you, are going to look for those opportunities, are going to continue to push yourself and to work hard. And so I think that the culture of L2k is actually the opposite of being competitive, right? It is supportive and it is there for the students and it is going to make you a better person and worker and learner in whatever you decide to pursue. And I think that is equally, if not more important than all of those other skills that you will learn. So, good luck, guys.
Number 3 is on the Woodstock slide, but I think I'll use here.
So I just want to thank these students. I think they did an amazing job. I really appreciate your time, your expertise, your insight. Dr. Marr, you as well. So we're at about 7:20-ish, I believe. I'll stay as long as we need to, but we can also, if you're getting, sore butt cheeks and you want to stand up or whatever, you're welcome to do that. We do have the opportunity to stay and kind of do some Q&A as a whole group here, if you would like. You have the opportunity to ask them any questions that you want. I'll let the students sort of be the main voice for this part as well. If one of us as teachers needs to pop in and say, well, this year, when we're not online, it might look like this, and those sort of things. If you have a question for Dr. Marr as well, you can pop in as well. So what do we got out there? Oh, yes, I was worried if we don't have any questions. We did too good a job.
Do you do any kind of mentoring or buddy system with kids that are over and L2k freshmen?
Yes, and I'll take that one because they didn't get to experience it as much last year. But yes, all L2k classes are scheduled period 2, period 4, period 8, so that we have opportunities for some cross-level mentoring. The seniors will be coming in and working with the freshmen on designing their second prepared speech of the year. They'll watch their first speech, talk about their hints and tips, and then walk them through like what are some maybe ways to get ready for their second speech of the year. Conversely, the freshmen will then be working with the seniors to help them with their final speech of the year later on in the semester and giving them some feedback on that. The sophomores will be working with the freshmen on a mentoring project about writing some logs and doing some of that as well. So it's formalized to an extent, but it's also, as Kate pointed out, part of the culture of the program, where students will be able to say, oh, you're an L2k, can you help me with a calculus assignment, right? Or whatever it is for. Would you look over my log for me? And usually the answer is yes, but what else can I do for you? Yes?
Is there any hands-on experimental kind of work, or is it all like read and
Yeah, freshman year is a little heavier on that. Again, pandemic. so they didn't get as much of that. We do have some build projects that we do. We do have every log for the extension piece. They have the opportunity to take action in different ways, one of which could be research, one of which could be interviewing an expert, and the third is design and run an experiment to test your ideas. And so they can do those sort of things on their own. As they start getting into higher grades, sophomore year is primarily geared around engineering and professional science as well. So they start getting a little bit more hands-on that year. To kind of lay a lot of the groundwork freshman year, but try to work those things in whenever we can. And so we've been through the program. Do you want to?
I can share a little more on that. So freshman year is all about basically laying the groundwork, as Mr. Stanford said. I think one project, at least that I did, I think it's still, I'm not entirely sure, is an inquiry project at the end of the school year. Yeah, it's still there. So L2k used to be paired with biology, but I think you still take biology as a freshman. And then you basically do an inquiry project in biological sciences, or basically psychological sciences, anything you want. And that's a group speech, or it's a group project, and then you do a speech at the end. But sophomore year is predominantly called the engineering year. You basically do a deconstruction project, where you take something like a VCR, deconstruct it, understand how it works, give a speech about it, and then do a reconstruction project, write a paper about it. And sort of the case resistance of the sophomore year is the R&D project. My team and I built a prosthetic hand that we control with an iPhone. That's around a 3-month project. It takes all quarter 4 up. And then junior year, you also do a Rube Goldberg project. I didn't get to do mine because COVID happened, and so they shut everything down. But in normal junior year, you do the Rube Goldberg project, and then you also have your career practicum and your job shadow, where you go out into the community and have hands-on opportunities to do that as well.
Any more questions? Yes, I had a very basic question. Do you have access to all of the library resources at full-time online, or do you have to be on site?
So the librarian comes in the English class as well. You do have access to all the databases, and they come into L2k as well. So all the main ones, forgetting the name of the one I used more prominently last year, but yes, all the medical journals, and some of them you can even get public access online as well. So hope that helps.
And the legacy library page also has a document with all the passwords and usernames for every single database, so you can use them at home when you're writing your log, doing research, your speech, things like that.
I still used it in college. I'm not ashamed. It's free. Do you guys have any good tips for staying on track or knowing what things to do? Do you use a giant wall calendar, online, post-it notes?
I'll take a minute. So for someone who liked to get ahead all last year, even sometimes 2 ahead, I utilize Google Calendar, planners. For me, I was more stressed out if I didn't start working on it than if I didn't, but if anyone kind of procrastinated a little bit more.
That was kind of my title in the household. I procrastinate everything and all things. I think I get it from my dad. We both are up at 3 a.m. finishing a speech for tomorrow at like 10, I don't know. And when you procrastinate, it sucks. It will 100% happen at least one time, in my case, every time. But just make sure, try not to in the first place. But when you do procrastinate, don't spend a certain amount of time on it. I'm a perfectionist and a procrastinator, which isn't a great combo. So I spent 20 plus hours on a log about warp engines and space travel. Fun to do, lovely, but I spent 25 hours how to use a late pass, and it ended horribly, by my standards. So my friend has a mantra: look at the rubric, see what is expected of you, and stick exactly to it. It doesn't matter if you go above and beyond, because the highest you can get is 100. It's great for you. Colleges will love it in the future, but now, and especially if you're pressed for time, look at your expectations, stick to them to the letter and to the base to get it done quickly and efficiently. That's it.
So I never procrastinated in L2k. That's like not a joke, I just did because I get stressed very easily. There are two things I did. Mr. Sanford, do you guys still do group A, B, C for logs? So you're randomly placed, or at least when I did, you were randomly placed into a group for your logs, and your due date for each log was a result of which group you were in. I was randomly placed into group C, which means your second log is due 2 weeks later than the group A log, but group A finishes quicker. And so what I decided to do, it started as a joke between me and my parents. They said, you should just write your logs with the group A group, and so I just followed the group A schedule for all of freshman year instead of the group C schedule. So when the group A log was due, I just submit the group A, or I just submit the log at that time. My teacher wouldn't grade it until the group C log was due because I was a group C student, but it kept me on an accelerated pace. And that led into sophomore year onwards. I'm on a schedule called the Krupa schedule, according to my parents, where everything is on just an accelerated timeline. So if a paper is due on like the 17th, in my head it's due on the 10th, it's pushed up a week. And then the speech order is on like the 13th, then the speech order is actually on the 10th, so I should have my speech done by that time. Nobody else follows the schedule, hence why it's the Krupa schedule, but it got me through L2k just fine. So having sort of an artificial scheduling timeline.
Right, okay, so I kind of want to add to that, because if you fall somewhere between procrastinates everything until you spend 25 hours on a log and does every assignment 2 weeks early, somewhere in the middle, procrastinate a couple assignments, do most of them on time. I lived and died by my planner in high school, and I would recommend the same for any incoming L2k student. I think there's free planners that the school offers. You can go to Staples and you can buy a planner, right? This maybe wasn't as important in middle school when your homework load was a lot lighter. But as your class schedule changes and as your homework load becomes heavier, I totally recommend a planner, some sort of app, something like that, where you can write down and keep track of assignments, both in the short term and in the long term. And I would recommend starting that sooner than later, because you don't want to be stuck in the first couple weeks of L2k without a plan.
My quick take on that. Procrastination is the #1 running theme. I'm sure you guys have noticed. And we try not to let it be just like a sink or swim sort of thing. We want students to figure out what works for them, but we also provide them with techniques and ideas. And I mentioned the Pomodoro technique, right? Of setting a timer, removing distractions. Read an article on procrastination and whether or not procrastination actually can be an effective technique. And just try to give them as many ideas that we've learned as adults who still sometimes procrastinate on things. And maybe put October 8th and October 9th in the same slide. So sort of things happen. And it's natural human behavior. And we try to say, how can you avoid it becoming something that lets you not be as successful of a person as you would like to be in life. What else do we have out there?
How often would you find yourself possibly finding one topic for a long and then later on deciding, I don't want to do this anymore, or finding more topics to do, and suddenly you find yourself wanting to change it entirely, scrap everything, start over again because it's not good enough?
Yeah. For that first log, I questioned if my topic was really ultra running about 6 times. After I got the revision feedback, which I didn't have C imprints for the first quarter once our schedule switched. My tip would be, you have to narrow your focus, but at first find a big idea, then find something smaller than that you're really interested in. Even if you're not interested in it right away, if you keep looking up different articles, reading different things, it might appeal more interesting.
Yeah, so I had a lot of those topics where I ended up realizing there's not enough on it, or there's not enough really for me to stem a new idea off of it. And so what I did was, in the back of your planner, there's usually a notes section where it's just blank lines. And what I would do was write down as many log topics as I could think of, just in a list. And as the year went on, I kept writing down more. And so this next year, I have a bunch of log topics that I could already start on because I just have this 4-page list in the back of my old plan. So that's something that I would recommend, is already being prepared to have those crap moments where it's not, you you don't think you'll get to a passing grade, and then go off and look at what other things, instead of scrambling around for a new topic, just fall on your fallback list. So that's what I think.
What's the attrition rate for freshman and senior year?
You know, it varies. So we have 96 freshmen. I think last year we had 80 seniors, 77 to 80. And so, you know, students will leave the program sometimes. 2 or 3 maybe freshmen per year will be removed for probation. A few, I think I had 3 from my section who just said, I don't want to do L2k next year. I made a different choice. And so it happens, and it varies from year to year. You know, out of the 96, we might have 94 that stay. We might have 85 that stay. And then we do allow freshmen to apply to start the program as sophomores as well. So you know, we put it back up to 96. And then as students get into junior and senior year, sometimes their interests diverge. We try to let them know, as some of these students have told you, that you don't have to be dedicated to a typical STEM field to be successful in L2k. So we've got students involved in law, business. I can remember a senior who was in wedding planning. She did all of her stuff on wedding planning. So you could stick with a non-STEM topic and still be successful. But some students say, you know, I'm taking it to the path, I want to do more stuff at Bowman or something like that. So generally, it's pretty low attrition rate. Yes?
Is it a full credit class every single year?
It's 1 full credit. It's one period every day, all year, freshman year. Same thing sophomore year. And then junior year, it's 1 period every other day. So it's half credit. And then senior year, it's 1 period for just first semester. So it ends up being 3 of your graduation credits. Good question. Others? Yes?
On your first blog, is it better to do a STEM topic specifically, or is it better to go into a topic from STEM?
Great question. Whenever somebody says, what should I write my log on, my response is, what are you interested in? And so if you pick a classically STEM topic, you can pull out all of the things that you are interested in about that and see why it relates to your life. If you want to find something like a pen or grass or shampoo or ballet shoes or something that you would say, that's not a STEM topic, I often challenge my freshmen to find a topic that we cannot find a STEM angle on. And so it's what you're interested in. We can make it work. Yes, go ahead.
Later in the year, even though I focused on STEM topics in the beginning, as an example, one of my logs was the detriments of focusing on like television love, so Grey's Anatomy, New Girl, all the classics, I guess. So obviously that has nothing to do with STEM. However, I was able to find an angle in it. So truthfully, if you find something you're interested in, there's usually, I'd say probably 99% of the time, something that you can find STEM, whether it's technology, science, math, etc.
I guess kind of saying the same thing. You can follow whatever you're interested in if it's not related to STEM. Go down the rabbit hole. There will be some branch of that you can find which is somehow related. Like if you're interested in spoons for some bizarre reason, how are they manufactured? What materials are used? What's the transportation method behind it? For that transportation, do they need any special resources? Are those resources damaging to the environment, et cetera, until you found something that you landed on, which in some way you enjoy.
Your further development, you could invent sporks.
Exactly.
And then within those sections, not every section has to have something that's STEM-based. There can be more science, STEM-based stuff in a further development rather than a personal connection. Anyone else have anything? Okay. Questions?
All right. Do you guys have anything that you feel like is a more one-on-one?
A more one-on-one question, I will stay around for a little while if you want to hit me up. I think Ms. West and Mr. Rosen will as well. Here's the thing, it's impossible to tell you everything that is really going on with L2K because it is so unique, so different. So you gotta live it. I love all of the messages from these students. Enjoy the ride. You get one freshman year, okay? L2K does not have to make it be something that is miserable, even though you will have those couple of nights, right? So, but enjoy the ride. Enjoy your freshman year. We are here to support you guys, and seriously, we consider this to be a family, so welcome to the family.